Hey, it's good to see you today for the day after podcast, and hopefully we'll get this up today. We actually are recording this the day after.
Yeah.
So this is Monday. We were at church. We've been going through the Sermon on the Mount, so we're continuing to do that. My name's Philip Thomas, pastor here at Journey Church in Elgin. This is Tom Burns, who has his ministry, Redeemed Idiot. He's going through the Book of Revelation on Wednesday nights at 6:30 here. So we'd love for you to join us to watch that as well. But this is the day after where we kind of just decompress, if you will, and go through what we talked about on the sermon and just expand on anything or just look. So what we are in Sermon on the Mount. So we're starting Matthew chapter 7. But just in general, what were your thoughts? What jumped out to you?
Okay, so we'll do a funny off the beginning.
Okay, all right.
So I'm going to give a little bit of a preface to this. So as an example, when I was overseas in Iraq, and my wife had sent me links to YouTube of your sermons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I did notice sometimes, it wouldn't start until you actually were starting the sermon. Like a lot of the singing, the worship is gone because they think it's a copyright law.
Yeah.
Whatever. So you don't get the first part of your sermon. And most times for me, on top of that, I only have little blocks at times. I was so busy over there. Like, I want to hear what he says. So I'd even fast forward, just like, okay, when's he talking? And listen to your sermon. So point being, what I want to bring out of that, sometimes you don't get the first half or the first part of what you've already said. So you put up a video yesterday, and it was that lady that was selling blessings.
Yeah, Paula White.
Paula White, yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in your what in the hell is that segment?
The hell is this?
What the hell is that? I think that is a smart. I'm not going to say smart. It's just very. I like it. It's just like it's very real. It's very human. It's like
it is. It's not the normal segment that churches have.
No.
And I know that there are some that would probably cringe when they hear that coming from the pulpit. And I actually I do understand that, and I don't like the fact that that's it. So, but I do think it kind of captures where we are in a culture, right? That we're in this open spiritual battle, and there's things that we see that are like, okay, that's clearly not heavenly. So if it's not heavenly, it may be coming from somewhere else. And
exactly.
So, and if it doesn't matter who you are, if there's things that you have seen at times, and whether you curse or you don't, you go, the hell was that? Right?
That's human. That's real.
It's just human. And I just throw myself at the mercy of Christ if I'm sinning every time I do it. The hell is that segment?
Oh, exactly. So during that segment, and then you kind of went on a rant of it.
I did.
And we can talk about that a little bit, but you made a statement. You said something, and it caused me to giggle in the backseat. I knew the context. But like I said, not if someone's watching the YouTube, it may not be recorded the first part of it, or they may just, because they're at home, not going to church anyways. I don't need to watch the singing and all that. I just want to listen to the sermon. This is the right thing,
right.
Being all godly. Well, I shouldn't say that. They want to get the message. They want to get fed. But you were going on this rant, and you're like, you're amping, not bad, but you're amping, and you go, you said you're referring to somebody else here in the audience,
and
you said, him and I have been praying for Brackett to get under our wives. And I'm like, you're ranting about prayer and how wrong things are. And we have two people in the church. The pastor was talking about he can't get under his wife and he's praying about
Yes.
Would you like to elaborate before somebody thinks?
But you knew what it made sense. I think everyone in here knew what it did.
Yes. I hope.
Yeah. No. Okay, that's a very good point. So
it's just funny when you said it.
It was. And so we have a bracket challenge here at the church, right? And so there's about 15 people that are on it. And one thing that we joke about, and we don't take it seriously. We do take it seriously to have fun, right? That is all that it is. And I have never won the bracket challenge, and my wife has actually beat me in it, and she literally picks the teams based on the colors that they're right. It's horrible, right? And so we really play that up,
right.
Just to be funny. Well, the gentleman over here, his wife and he are playing, and this is for their first year to play, and his wife was beating him. So both of us were getting beat by our wives, and we started texting, and we were talking about this earlier in church. That we were texting back and forth, and joking, obviously,
Right.
that we need to start praying for God to flip that, right? To bring the wives under us in the bracket, right? And so what so why that came to my mind is we were saying that as a joke
Right.
of how obviously stupid that would be, to think that God would bless your prayer to have your wife be moved under you in a bracket,
Right.
right?
Right.
And we'll take out all the sexual innuendo that could be going here,
Well, that's what I wanted to make sure.
because there was none of that.
There's not an intimacy problem going on here.
But I do, yeah. And so it was to show how our conversation of prayer was so freaking stupid, and everyone would recognize it as stupid, but yet this person is legitimately selling her stupid, and people are paying for it.
Yep, yep.
Right? So that's where that was going. Yes. It strictly was only to do with us praying that our wives would drop below us in the Journey bracket challenge.
Right. Okay. I mean, I know that, but I thought I'd let you explain it. Just because, like I said, overseas, if I had started the video right there,
you'd have been like,
I'd be like, what?
the?
Why is he putting that out? I mean, I really would have been like, that's weird.
That's true.
But in case somebody ever picks this up on YouTube and rushes to at least, and they listen to this, like, oh, that had the context was a bracket challenge.
Yes.
And you had talked about it before church even started.
I saw it during the announcements and stuff like that. Which is the reason, if you can, come join us. You get a whole different perspective.
You get the whole context. Yeah. Oh,
that's
so anyways, I just I giggled, and on the way home I was like, that's just too funny. Because somebody's hearing this and they're just like,
that really is, that would be
already funny. You said, what in the hell? Now he's
yeah, no, that was, and and I really I did get off on a little bit of a rant, but I mean I intentionally showed that because I do feel like that is my role as a pastor, I believe, is to try to equip us, and I put us, we're all on the same level. We're all followers of Christ. We're all ministers. We're all, that's what we're all supposed to do. I have a different role. I am equipping the ministers to go out to into the world, right? And I think the role of the church and the role of the pastor is to equip the people to go out and engage the real world, right? And to know what is right and wrong, and be able to see theological manipulation that is going on. And it's been very easy to see that on the left side of the political aisle, right? With the gender stuff, with just over the top, right? Well, that gets easy for us to see in many ways. Well, it's happening on the right side as well. It's just done in different ways.
Right.
And I think we need to be aware that this stuff is going on. I don't know if anyone in the congregation has ever heard of Paula White. She's very popular though. So and here's the hard thing, is a lot of the stuff her ministries do is really good stuff. And I would not get devotionals and things like that come from her, but there's probably a lot of them that are actually very beneficial, right? And it's just that this aspect of her theology is horrific, right? And I think we need to be able to see that and make sure that we don't get caught into anything like that.
You bringing that up, I mean, this was even your sermon. We'll get to that. But,
right.
But you bringing this up, I think, shows the honesty behind it, because a lot of times, politically or even church-wise, we see something that's not right or kind of a negative or not necessarily agree with, we know is wrong, will generally not mention it or will ignore it, like it never happened.
Right.
So by you bringing this up, it both showed a political issue,
Hmm.
and it also showed something in a theological church kind of way. And you were honest enough to be, and you've mentioned you lean more conservative,
Yes.
but you didn't. Oh, well, we're not going to talk about this so people know. I don't
Yeah.
want to talk about the bad stuff we do, the conservatives do. You
Yeah.
were honest enough to go, this is stupid
Yeah.
what they're doing, and you brought up from the point of the spiritual context to it, the theological, like going, this is stupid.
Yeah.
So it shows you're not rooted just into one kind of mentality and a hardcore something. It's like,
Yeah.
I will show you the truth, even if
Yeah.
it's the side I kind of lean to. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Yes. Yeah. No. And that's hard. I mean, it's so hard because, again, it's important for us to recognize we're in the middle. You know, people talk about the Cold War. There's people that'll talk about our country, that we're in a cold civil war.
Mhm.
I typically, I agree with that general principle, right? On the spiritual battle side, we are in a hot war, right? Like, and when you're in a hot war, which, what does that mean? That means things are happening, real battles are happening. Now, this is on a spiritual level, right? So, I believe that's where we are on the spiritual level. Is that we're in it is the flames, the flaming arrows are flying, right? And so we have to address things, and it ticks me off. It irritates me that we're in this position with how the spiritual battle is working out in our country, that I find myself siding with one political party clearly over the other. I don't like that, because the answer is not found in either political party, right? And I hate the fact that it comes across as if I'm supporting one political party
Right.
all the time. But we're in this battle right now, and that's just the circumstances that we're in. And again, that doesn't mean that we don't criticize uh, our own side and people that are aligned with us. But we still need to be battling together, right? And pushing back against some of the true evil that is out there. And it's hard. It's hard to navigate these waters, and there's collateral damage. And in this case, it could be that somebody turned on and hears that rant and goes, "Oh my gosh, that person's crazy." Like, well, I guess that's
Right.
that's where we are.
Right on. Yeah.
So,
I know. That's exact. Yeah, you're right. So anyway, let's move on to your sermon.
Matthew 7.
Matthew 7. So this is all about forgiveness. Might reverse this.
Judging others. Do not judge.
Yeah, do
lest
not
you
judge.
be judged. Yeah.
And I think this is one of those things that imperatively is tough for everybody and anybody. The thing of judgment. So I mean, if you want to elaborate, so there's you actually brought a definition up, which is really good, but there's judgment is wrong, but you brought in kind of the human side to it, where it's not really it's beyond just judging for a negative after someone. That, like, there's a point you can do correction, or you recognize something, but out of love it's done, right? I mean, is that what?
Yeah. So the thing is I think it's important for us to know that we're never going to get this one perfectly right. And because we've misused it, we've tried to simplify it down, right? So that we can get it right, if you will. But that doesn't work. Because some people have said, "Oh, well, Jesus says not to judge, therefore we can't judge." But yet, in other places in Scripture, it tells us that we need to hold people account to their sin, right? And that's why I brought out that Galatians passage that it should be done with a spiritually mature person and gentleness, and you should be very aware that this could go really wrong, right? Because this is just a dynamic. Because we are fallen individuals, we live in a fallen world. It is hard to do this, right? What I think Jesus is specifically talking about is he's talking about that judgment that has the intention of criticizing without helping people overcome whatever that criticism is, right? So that's the judgment that just doesn't help at all.
Right.
right? You know, and so, for example, if you are just with someone that you don't even know, and you go and critique what they're wearing, or you critique their ideology, and you tell them how horrible their ideology is, and you have no relationship with them at all. You are making a judgment on them, and you have no intent of helping them, or at least giving them the opportunity to maybe recognize what the problem
Right.
is and overcome it. You're just wanting to get it off your chest, right? That's the kind of judgment that Jesus is talking about. I also think this is talking about more personal relationships with people that you that you know, right? How are you treating people that you have real relationship with? And sadly, many times we can be very judgmental towards those that we know, right? And you can break someone's spirit very easily, even if you're right. And so I think that's what Jesus is getting at the most here, because yeah, how can you be as wise as serpents and innocent as doves if you aren't discerning, if you aren't making judgments about things, right? We have to do that. It's the way it's wielded here that Jesus is talking about. And so if you are just trying to judge someone basically just to fix them, or to make yourself feel better, you know you're probably breaking what Jesus is
Right.
talking about here. Yeah.
No,
So
that's I think yeah, that's a good illustration of it. Because that's obviously a problem we have. Now, another thing you mentioned, and then obviously I love that you pointed this out. So it's what, 12 verses?
yeah,
It's 12 verses. And
or that's what a lot of people don't do that. There'd be a lot of theological pushback on it.
I'm gonna have to side with you on this one because this is something I jump up and down about. That general when you read boy, okay, you have to understand a verse of what it says in its whole context.
Yes.
And what you brought out was the fact that ESV has these little sub paragraph
Yeah,
headings.
and-
This is about this, about this.
Yeah.
And you could get the wrong impression what this is about because that was never originally in the Bible. is what you're pointing
No.
out.
Yeah.
So you brought up the point that this scripture that it starts in judgment. And then at the end in verse 12 or 11 or 12, it says, therefore.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells us that all of this beforehand is the same contextual understanding of judgment.
Yeah.
Correct? Is that what you're?
Yes. No, that's exactly right. And that therefore is the golden rule, right? Is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Most of us don't associate that as being connected with judging,
Mm-hmm.
but it is. Like, it's the conclusion of all of this, and which I think actually should help us understand a little bit the muddy waters of what it means to judge and not to judge.
Right.
Is all of us have been told things that we're doing wrong. And so think about, how would you like that to happen? How would you like someone, if you were truly doing something wrong, how would you like them to approach you to do that? Right.
Right.
That's kind of what it's getting at. And again, you would want at least that person to be truly desiring to help you, not just yelling at you. Right.
Yeah, so not an attack.
Not attacking you.
Right.
Now that doesn't mean there's not time for tough love. There is, right? Again, we can't view this as a checkbox. Don't ever judge.
Right.
Check. No, I believe there's sometimes that, like, for example, as a parent, now, if I had a child who is just addicted to drugs, right? And there's been parents, sadly, who deal with that all the time. At some point, you have to show some tough love, right? And it comes across as, oh, you're being very judgy, right? But no, it's just reached a point where you're like, no, I can't give you any more money. I can't support you anymore because I know what you're going to do with this. And because I want what's best for you,
right,
I'm not going to to do this, right? These are hard questions. These are challenging things. But it goes to the intent behind it. And there is that point that the reality is none of us are going to change our opinion or even our behavior until we recognize that it's wrong.
Right.
Right. And so sometimes that takes years and years. But if you are put in the position, if you feel called by God to address an issue with another person, one, I think you should take that very seriously and move very deliberately in that, because you don't want to be the type of judgmental person that just makes sure they stay in the place that they're in. Right. So I think what Jesus is saying, that ask, seek, knock idea, that is stepping back, and it's okay. First, ask the Lord, right? How do you want me to handle this? Right. Pray about it. Ask for opportunities to present themselves that God orchestrates, not the right. And then when that time comes, if it's something that you're like, I have the relationship with this person, I have to address this. Do it in a very kind way of asking them, hey, I'm noticing this in your life, or this is my perception. Is that what's happening? And see if that door starts to get cracked, right? And if it does, start seeking answers, right? And saying, okay, well, what's behind that? What's behind this behavior change that I'm seeing? That's not how you used to act, right? Why are you doing that? You're like slowly moving, right? That gives the best chance of success, because success is that you want what's best for that person.
Right.
Right. The judgmental that Jesus is talking about is when and maybe it's the same exact situation. You see, someone that you know well, that all of a sudden they are going down a dangerous path, and you're like, oh, I've got to fix that, because and you do. Somebody needs to, but the way that you handle it is you just go up there, hey, moron, why are you doing this? I can't believe that you're making these decisions. This is ridiculous. Look at this, what this is going to do to your family. Look at what, right? You may be exactly 100% right, but have you handled that in a way that is going to help them actually be able to overcome that? Or have you just hit them over the head with a plank that's in your own eye? Right.
Right.
Or have you just thrown pearls to swine? Right. It's like, okay, great. You just told me 100 things that were true, but you know what? I don't care. That's not what I need right now.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's what Jesus is getting at.
You put in a very good perspective, and right here you even use the term intent. And going back to the rest of the Sermon on the Mount,
there's a lot of
intent was always kind of like a key element to this.
It is.
So I'm glad you keep saying that. So that sounds like what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that this judging thing, it's a word, but it's your intent behind it.
Yeah.
If it's to elevate yourself, is it to attack? Is it just to make yourself feel better? You just want to vent?
Yeah.
But if it's hurting that other person, it's obviously not being done out of love.
Yes.
So if your intent is not in a loving way, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what you're saying, that then there's a problem.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I think just going on a simple level, look, your relationship with your spouse, right? We may have talked about this. Sometimes I can't remember if we've talked about it on a podcast or like afterwards, right?
Right.
But the idea with your spouse, and especially in getting arguments, usually that's coming from some place of judgment, right? You're judging a decision that they made that you don't like, or vice versa, right? And if we handle things in the judgmental way that Jesus is cautioning us against, what happens? Well, we come at our wife because she made some decision that we don't agree with, right? And maybe we come in trying to convince her that it's wrong. Well, what's her first reaction going to be? To do the same thing back at us, which is just what Jesus said. If you judge in this harsh manner that is not helpful, then you too will be judged in that manner, right?
There you go.
Because that person is going to do the same thing to you. And it's important, like especially in a marriage, we need to be very careful not to judge in the way that Jesus is talking about, right? And understand, if you truly get into fights in a marriage, what you are intending, and if you are fighting to make sure, listen, I've got to win this point, I've got to do that. What you are essentially saying is, I want her, in my case, I want her to lose, right? Well, is that a healthy place to be, to want the closest relationship that you have, to want that person to lose, right? Now, most people don't think about it this way, but
Right.
that is what's happening. No, that's bad judging. No, I want what's best for her, because I love her more than anything. And so even if we have a disagreement on things, I want to approach it in a way where I help her to see what is the best way, right?
Right.
And it may be that we never come eye to eye on it, but I for sure don't want to come at it in a way that wants her just to be belittled and to lose the argument,
Right.
right? I think that's kind of the judging that Jesus is getting at. That, I mean, it destroys relationships. It destroys our witness whenever are judging in that type of way.
Right. Right. Oh, that's good. So now I'm gonna bring up, because this is obviously one of those scriptures that people come with all kinds of creative ways to
Mm-hmm.
say what it says. So I want you to elaborate on a thing of the pearls and the swine.
And the swine. Okay. So I have heard that used in many different ways. And one example that I kind of threw out, and again, these are generalizations, I know, but people will use that in terms of that there are some people, equating them to the swine in this parable, right? If you will, or analogy, metaphor. I don't know what the right term is.
That works.
Yeah. That they just are never going to be ready to hear or ingest the truth that you're sharing. So at some point, don't waste your time sharing those pearls of wisdom to that person, right?
Doesn't sound Christ-like.
It doesn't, except I will say, Jesus himself said, whenever he sent out the disciples, he said, go, and if people don't welcome you, what do? You dust your sandals off and you move on. So I think what happens, there's truth in that too. And so that people connect that to this scripture, that general principle. I think that's a very dangerous thing to do, especially using this example, because again, I don't think that's what it's meant to do. I think it's talking about judging. I think he's talking about that the pearls in the metaphor it is representative of the type of judging Jesus is talking about that's so negative. It's like you're giving something to somebody that they can't even digest. So it's not going to help them, and it's only going to make them angry, right? If we apply it to that, then it's very easy to start seeing like categories of people as, well, that group of people, they're too far gone. Why should I waste my time even trying to tell them the truth? Right? Just throw out examples. People who are Islamic, who are Muslim, right? They've made up their minds. They believe. So should we just not even try to share the truth of the gospel to them?
No.
Obviously not, right? In our country, we have a vast divide. If I have a drag queen come into the church, does this mean that I'm like, you've obviously made your decision, I'm not even going to share the truth of the gospel of Christ with you? Obviously not, right? So we have to be real careful how we use that passage.
You got, and to elaborate, even biblically speaking, when the disciples of the Christ and they came up to the drunkard's den when the people were partying and getting drunk,
Mhm.
and they were all telling Christ, "No, we can't go in there. Those are all bad people. They're a bunch of drunks. This
Yeah.
is happening. No." Christ's like, "I'm not here for the well. I'm here for the sick."
Yes.
So there was an element of judgment going on. Like, I
was gonna say,
recognize you're messed up,
he
but
just judged them, right?
Yeah.
Which is why it's important to understand the complexity of this passage. Jesus judged them. He said, yes, they're sick. I want to go and help them.
exactly, he was going in out of love.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. And guess what? Most of those people didn't listen to Jesus. Yes.
exactly.
And so sometimes it kind of feels like we're casting pearls before swine.
Right.
But I think sometimes we can use that verse as maybe even a cop out of, oh, well, people have made up their
Don't try to
minds. Don't even try to help. Right. No,
No, that's not the point.
That's not the point.
I mean, because it goes down to what you said in verse 11, 12, when it says, therefore,
Mhm.
you know, this still is talking about judgment. So obviously how to judge, because it ends with treat others.
Doing to others as you had
Yeah, exactly. So
for this is the law of the law, the truth behind the law and the prophets, right?
So his statement wouldn't be, do you not want people to help you?
Yeah.
No, I want people to help me. I just don't want to be mean about it.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted them to try.
Yeah.
Right. And
something that I could use to maybe bring me out of this whatever world.
Mhm.
And once you have that acceptance of
Yeah.
whatever you're at.
Yeah. So and I think, you know, moving forward, we wrap up, but this is a tough passage. I think it has been hijacked to try to convince us not to talk about sin, right? Because you're judging people, right? It's been hijacked on that way, but which I think keeps us from understanding what it's really talking about, which is yes, we can judge actions and things. We know what is right or wrong according to Scripture, right? But the way that we address people, specifically on an individual way, right? It is so important. You know, because back in this time, how did most people interact? They interacted just like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? It wasn't on social media. It wasn't. It wasn't not all of this. I don't think Jesus was telling pastors, "Hey, don't talk about sin," and you know, so that you don't come across as being judgmental.